with Michelle Rankin, owner and publisher of Stroll Lansdale, and we have partnered together to bring you Missions That Matter, a nonprofit that's featured in the magazine each month, and one that will receive all the proceeds from Good Morning Frederick merchandise for the month. And welcome, Michelle, to Good Morning Frederick.
Hi, Danny. How are you doing today?
Oh, excellent as always, especially when you bring me a nonprofit that I've never really heard of. And this is one of those as well.
Yeah. It was really exciting. I love it when we come across a nonprofit that we're not as familiar with. I actually had a little bit of experience with this particular nonprofit through my Rotary Club. Yeah, Mountainside Education and Enrichment started a program, Lunch Out of Landfills.
Anytime we can educate, especially our young people, about things like composting and, keeping good food out of the trash. We've all been in the schools and seen entire lunch trays being thrown into the garbage where perfectly good food is actually going into the landfill. And he was very passionate about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right. But like I said, I had a little bit of knowledge of this because our Rotary Club actually partnered with him, and we do the lunch out of landfills at Lincoln Elementary here in the city. And I think one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this was not just that composting part of it, which I think is really super important, because that's an incredible amount of food and waste that they're keeping out of our landfills. But also the fact that if one kid had an extra milk or extra banana, something that they could leave behind, the whole idea of these refrigerators, where they could leave behind for other kids who might want it and maybe able to use it. I really thought that was pretty special as well.
Absolutely. And, really it is. It's like, you're absolutely passing on to somebody else something that you don't want, but that's perfectly good for them. And it spreads that out amongst all the students. So you guys have an article in this month's magazine about Mountainside as well. And we did a feature. Yeah, I love it.
We've got it right here. So our residents in Lansdale will get a chance to read that. We'll also feature that on our Facebook as well as our Instagram pages.
That's right.
So there's a QR code there where people can learn more. I know you're right. Joe is extremely passionate about this. They're trying to get this program up and running in more and more schools. So
yeah,
I think that, he definitely has a big job ahead of him, but I can't think of anybody better to lead that charge.
Absolutely. All right. Now you can meet Joe Richardson. All right. We're at the home of everything, Frederick, 401 North Market Street. I'm with Joe Richardson, the purveyor of BarT.
My wife and I own BarT and all the programs, mostly in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
And then a non-for-profit, Mountainside Education and Enrichment, MEE Green.
Okay.
And that's the parent company for Lunch at Landfills.
Yeah, very cool. Quickly, we'll just kind of go into, you and your wife met at BarT in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to acquire BarT from the former owner. Kind of stole it in a way. He sold it. He wanted it. He wanted it to go to good hands.
He really did. And I was the same way. I'm older. My son is my oldest son is doing a really good job of maintaining the daily operations of the company.
Okay.
So I've kind of turned the day-to-day operations of our before and after school programs and summer camps into his hands and some other wonderful people who work with him.
Yeah.
And
at the time that you and your wife were at BarT, you didn't have a teaching. Did you have a teaching? You were just
my wife did, but what we call non-formal educators.
Yeah.
Everything we do, we teach.
Yeah.
When I would take kids at Mountainside down the creek, it's like, I'm going to introduce you guys to a whole new world that's dependent upon decisions that we make. And, you know, exposing kids to macroinvertebrates and having them catching salamanders and crayfish is,
I remember doing that as a kid.
Incredibly impactful, especially for kids who haven't done 100%. It before.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you hold a salamander in your hand and say, you know, that salamander's ability to live here depends on choices that we make.
Yeah.
So we're sort of responsible for that creature's well-being. I think when you hold a salamander in your hand, it's so much more profoundly impactful than looking at it on an iPad.
Oh, 100%. When did the idea, or I'm sure it was kind of always a part of what you were doing, when did you actually go, okay, we need to do something about this waste?
I saw the amount of, you know, I would take trash cans from camp and throw them into the dumpster.
Yeah.
And I have to confess, originally we were buying bottled water from Costco by the pallet and giving them to kids, and the kids weren't drinking all of it. I shudder to think that I did that now because bottled water and single-use plastics make me crazy. So we discontinued that.
Yeah.
We have coolers and solo cups that do biodegrade that we make sure kids stay hydrated, but stopped that process. But we saw significant amounts of uneaten food going into our dumpsters in summertime, and I could only imagine that it would be comparable, if not worse, in elementary schools.
Right.
So in 2000, I served on the Frederick County Sustainability Commission from 2014 to 2020. And the last 2 years, Jan Gardner in 2016 asked me to serve on the What's Next Steering Committee, looking at solid waste options for Frederick County. I was on the Sustainability Commission. She wanted 2 members from that commission and some people from SWAC and some other concerned citizens to do a real in-depth exploration of what our options were. So we met in public forums. We met monthly for 2 years.
Wow.
Produced a 169-page document that I don't think anybody's read since on what we should be doing, because at the time they were going to build a waste to energy incinerator.
Right. I remember all of that.
And that ended. And it's like, so what are we going to do now? So that was what the What's Next committee stood for.
Right.
And I realized my role, because I work with children and see firsthand some of the waste, that it's like, well, let's teach kids. Let's get organics out of the waste stream. So one of the big conclusions were stop burying organic matter.
Yeah.
And introducing this into schools.
Yeah.
So after 2018, when we provided the report, I was patted on the back. Thanks for my service. Committee was disbanded, and it's like, so what now?
Yeah.
And fortunately, there's some great teachers in the county. Elizabeth McCook at Urbana High School reached out to me and said, listen, Joe, I know you know something about composting. I'd like to try to do some waste diversion in Urbana. And we started the program in 2019. There were some great kids who I was introduced to. I don't know if you know Phil Westcott. He was running Key Compost.
I don't, but yeah.
He was asked to start a program at Clarksburg Elementary School in Montgomery County, spearheaded by 3 7th graders.
Oh, wow.
And they went back to their old principal and said, we'd like to start a compost program there. And Mr. Benson was all about it. So we started a couple of programs that were fledgling, and it was remarkable how quickly the kids picked up the idea. 4 bins instead of 2.
Yeah.
Compost, recycling. But what we were seeing is we provide an organics bin, a liquids bin, compost, and recycling.
Yeah.
And recycling is badly contaminated in most cases.
Right.
There's so much contamination in recycle bins in any school that it's all trash.
Yeah.
So we started this program, and we were diverting 85% of the waste that it was previously going to a landfill by providing these options.
That's amazing.
And
that's amazing. Now that you didn't wait for this bigger thing to happen. You just said, you know what, we got to do it now. We got to start wherever we can, and hopefully it spreads based on those kids.
This needs to be a nationwide program.
Yeah.
And I'm working with Rotary. I'm on the Environmental Sustainable Rotary Action Group. I've been starting upstart programs in Washington State, Hawaii, Maine, New Hampshire, working with people in North Carolina. And this is a universal problem, not unique to Frederick or unique to Maryland. We're trying to make a national movement where we stop throwing away edible food.
Yeah.
And to the best of our capacity. And some communities can't compost, and some communities don't have recycling capabilities.
Right.
But we divert as much as we possibly can wherever we are.
Sure.
Starting with edible, recoverable food.
Yeah. So how can the greater Frederick community help you?
Pressure on the school system.
Yeah.
I've worked with the school system. I've had students present to the school board on a number of occasions. We've been applauded and lauded for our work. And the school systems are limited in their budgets. I understand that, and I don't want to burden the school system. I don't want that to be the responsibility of school administrators or building services.
Yeah.
The ideal program is a green club or environmental club in the school, embraces this, owns it, helps supervise it. I need a teacher champion to guide it.
Yeah.
But if you talk to Carrie Wolf at Middletown Elementary School, it's like once the kids get it, and they have this schedule of, I'll be a compost ambassador for this lunch period. The programs run themselves.
Right.
But it needs to be really championed by students.
Yeah.
Not a burden to the school system.
Right.
Throwing away 30 to 40% of all the food that's grown in this country or processed. It goes in the waste. Again, we have hunger. So there's nothing political about this.
Yeah.
But there is a systemic problem that is very, very difficult to breach.
Yeah. Yeah. So pressure, families in schools can help champion this opportunity and kind of bring it to a PTA or a school, their local administration, just to say, hey, I want to get this started. We talked about a mutual friend who I know started this at Yellow Springs, and then it just kind of got it going. And I think that's what it takes, right? It just takes somebody to stand up and say, hey, I can do this.
And it takes a lot of persistence. I had thought, when Dr. Albin was the superintendent, she said, Joe, my daughters are concerned about the environment. It's like, Mom, what are you doing? So she found some funding to help support organic extraction from elementary schools.
Yeah.
Rotary clubs in Frederick, I'm a Rotarian. A lot of the clubs came through and raised money. And that was enormously beneficial. But again, it's year by year. So any principal or student or teacher that wants to see something like this happen in their schools, they can reach out to me. My email address. We have a website. It's under construction. I'm actually working with the World Wildlife Fund to create a more robust presence where this can and needs to be replicated everywhere in the country.
Right.
So we want to have this sort of step-by-step and having students be able to communicate with students in not in other schools, but other counties, other states. Hey, what are you doing that's working?
Right.
How can we adopt what you do? Because this has to happen everywhere. I did some math. And we've estimated in our years of doing this, roughly 50 pounds of perfectly edible, recoverable food gets thrown in the trash every day from a school of 500 students. You multiply that by 180 days.
Right.
67 schools in Frederick County.
Right.
1,400 schools in Maryland. 98,000 schools in the United States. And we're throwing over 800 million pounds of perfectly recoverable, edible food.
Wow.
Instead of providing students with options. If I want a second milk, I have to pay for it.
Right.
In the meantime, there's 17 in the trash can.
Right, right.
So the one other thing that I'm pushing hard for this year is refrigerators. Mini refrigerators with glass doors to be placed in cafeterias and share tables. They're fairly inexpensive. I'm working with HT Supply. We can get high quality refrigeration at wholesale costs. And $350 puts a fridge with a glass door and an external thermometer, which appeases health department, appeases food services, and kids begin to understand. Whoa, there's a milk. I can help myself to it, whether they do it at lunchtime or going out the door. I've worked with Laura Oxner from A Simple Gesture in North Carolina. The data is the same. They have refrigerators in all 146 schools in Guilford County, North Carolina. And they've estimated they've recovered 1.2 million pounds of available food from that school system alone.
Wow.
It's an embarrassing problem. You have hunger in this country.
Yeah.
And we're modeling behaviors that need to be altered.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right. Well, we're going to make sure your details, how people can get in touch with you, are on screen so that they can reach out. If they want more information, maybe to have you come do a presentation, give them a pep talk, give them the stuff they need to take to their schools or organizations to help alleviate all of this waste.
Yeah.
We appreciate everything you've done over.
Well, thank you.
40 couple of years here in
Well,
Frederick
40 years
County
of camp, but it's been
Montgomery
like
County.
an 8-year campaign.
People don't ask what's next, then where are we, right? So we really appreciate you doing this for our community and championing it, and hopefully you have a big army soon that can help. We really appreciate you. I think it's great.
All right,
awesome.
Thanks, Dan.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you guys for watching.
Thank you.